This episode is coming out right around Mother's Day, and that is really timely because this story is about a young mom who needed some sleep and how chiropractic helped her baby and helped her. But we're also going to get into the importance of being gentle and loving, especially with tired, overwhelmed parents, when we are communicating with them, and that our chiropractic message, even though we're talking about dysfunction, needs to be full of love and gentleness. We're also going to talk about how we can give ourselves a little bit of a break and let our nervous systems have the time to integrate as well and not just hustling and grinding. Hi, I'm Jenna Quentin, founder of Adjust Your Media and host of What Chiropractic Doesn't Cure, Stories of Innate podcast. And I suggest that you head to the show notes because there's a lot of links of valuable information. And as always, reach out if I can help you with anything. Now, let's get into this story. Today on What Chiropractic Doesn't Cure, Stories of Innate podcast, we have Dr. Stephanie Masek, and she is the Brain-Based Chiro on Instagram and practices in Minnesota. So welcome. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Alrighty. So as always, we want to talk about how chiropractic improves life, and I'm excited to hear what you have to share just because of some of the other things that I know you love to talk about. So tell us a story. Whose life improved with chiropractic?
Whose life hasn't improved with chiropractic? Let's start with that, right? That is a choice to not let chiropractic just change your life. But gosh, there's a million stories I could tell, but I feel like one that has really impacted, I think, our entire office more recently, we had a young first-time mom come in, and she had not slept for more than 40 minutes a night since her baby was born, and the baby was 4 months old. So do the math there. That is not a lot of sleep. And women need, at least 8 to 10 hours every night to just thrive. So she came in and, complete zombie, new to chiropractic care, new to pediatric chiropractic care. And she just needed us to really meet her in the depth of that pain and that suffering, but also to teach about the potential of chiropractic care. So it took a lot of nurturing, a lot of teaching, a lot of love. And baby, within 2 weeks, he was sleeping for, 4 hours, and then it went to 5 hours, and then it went to 7 hours, then 8 hours, and then 10 hours. And every little win there was just super exciting. But that I was a baby chiropractor that grew up with Dr. Tony Ebel. And so really our whole focus is not just the win of the 0 hours to 10 hours, right? That's super cool. We can track numbers, but it's the impact that has on that mom and on the parents in general, their relationship, the whole family. I mean, the whole family changed, and mom didn't get under chiropractic care. She didn't. But her life changed because of her son's life changing. And so that was just a really, really awesome story to witness. And I mean, she just expressed recently, they just moved out of town, but they just expressed thank you for being there for me when literally I was holding on by just a tiny thread of hope. And that's just what we get to do every single day. So.
Yes, I do love that. So baby was the patient. Baby was the point of entry there. Do you see that a lot in a lot of families that come in?
Truthfully, yes. So again, I was raised in pediatric chiropractic. And so when I say I was raised in that, meaning that is where my chiropractic journey, as a chiropractor started, was actually bringing in kids first, which I recognize that in the past was never the case. It was parents, and then even reading Reggie Gold's books, it was parents can get adjusted if they bring in the kids too. And it was kind of this parents or, mom and dad were first. And then it was kind of oh, wait, you can help my kid too. But all of our marketing and all of our teaching and all of our preaching is really a lot about kids and all about kids. And then the parents or the, adults that come in or know them are wait, do you take care of adults too? And we're yes, we do. So I know it's unique, but it's totally normal to me because I have been in this world for so long.
Well, and what I love about this approach and this thought is I have 4 kids, and the things that I do for them, it's so easy. Of course, I'm going to get them a snack. Of course, I'm going to lay them down for a nap. Of course, they need new socks. And so I think that it makes so much sense when parents, and especially these recent generations of parents, in my opinion, are thinking about what can I do to help this child thrive? Where can I look? They're, I think, a lot of times doing their research. They're looking for things. And so then even if I never take a nap and I never get myself a snack, those kids are going to have it.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, it's just complete dedication to growing them up in wellness, which is, I mean, our whole conversation is like, don't wait till they're sick. Let's build a healthy brain. And so, I mean, we had today, a mom just had her baby completely new to chiropractic care herself. And we've done a good amount of education on, hey, postpartum is coming up, new baby is coming up. We got to talk about that because that's going to look very different than right now. And they are asking about it like crazy. They're like, oh, I want to get my baby in. Like they are like, already talking about that and so excited for that because we've done so well educating on not just, hey, this is about getting your pelvis in alignment for birth. It's about the nervous system. It's about baby. It's about generational health. It's about so much more than I think olden chiropractic talked about. It's really so much more than that.
Yeah. You said something interesting that I want to go back to. You said women, of course, need so much sleep, 8 hours and more. I don't think that is something that has been said or highlighted, especially when it's like, oh, you're a new mom. You can keep whatever activities you had in your life and add in this baby and hustle and grind and organize and have a morning routine. But why do you say that? Why do you say that sleep is so important for women?
Well, I think just even the differences between the male and the female brain, we have different needs. We thrive with different environments. I think we are raised in such a culture where we're told to operate, or, we're kind of pushed to operate at the same level or the same kind of like lifestyle as men. And we have to recognize, we have to go back to those foundational principles of, it doesn't mean we can't do everything that men can do or, whatever, but we have to consider that we have different needs to where our like hormones can thrive and our nervous systems can thrive with more rest and more nourishment. So again, yeah, like you said, there's so much pressure as new moms or, women that are becoming moms soon is like, I've got to have all these things, all these ducks in a row and like have all these things lined up. And it really is just like this process of like becoming a mother. And I saw a chiropractor's post recently that was basically all about like, we talk about these stages as just little steps that we hit in a row. And it's just forgetting that like every experience changes us. Every experience changes us. So even like the thought of postpartum, that's just 2 or 3 or 4 months after you have a baby. It's like, no. You are a completely different person hormonally, physiologically, neurologically after you have a baby than you were before.
I saw a great post by Dr. Raymond Nichols, and he said, postpartum is not 6 weeks, postpartum is forever. It is always post, meaning after, partum, meaning birth. You are forever after having given birth.
Right. Yeah. No, that's actually the post I was referring to, just like kind of blew my mind open. And I was like, yeah, we do not talk about all those changes and we neglect women postpartum. So I think it's an important conversation for all age women that our bodies have different needs and we thrive in kind of like a less intense environment. I think I always talk about on podcasts too, like this is the same reason why we're seeing men with very low testosterone and women with very high testosterone is we are creating this environment that's so backwards for both. And to have our hormonal systems thrive, our nervous systems need to thrive, and our nervous systems thrive with more rest, more support, more nourishment, more presence and attunement. And so as far as like sleep goes, does that mean like if we get 7 hours and 50 minutes of sleep and we don't actually hit 8 that we're not going to thrive? No, but like where can I like make sure that I'm nourishing my body and taking care of it? I probably shouldn't go do CrossFit that day, So just being more aware of like our needs is really important and our patients' needs.
Yes. Well, and I think that it's beautiful that you aren't just hitting on the structural changes. Like I was 23 when I gave birth to my firstborn and he was a small baby, 6 pounds, 4 ounces. And I remember the morning after that I was like, my pelvis is different. I wouldn't have thought that such a small baby would have made such a big structural difference.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that has been said, physical therapist, pelvic floor therapist, that has been covered. But what you're talking about is the neurological changes and the nervous system changes as well. And it's beautiful that chiropractic is where those come together. It's the intersection.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, even just the fact that like, if you don't know what happens with a mom neurologically after she has a baby, like she is heightened to every single need and sound and all the things to baby. So like as a chiropractor, if I don't know that and I'm adjusting a baby and that baby starts crying and then I look over and the mom is like sweating and like literally like freaking out and her nervous system just like freaks out, that's natural. But also like I should maybe do something a little bit different to help her stay calm and help baby stay calm and, tune into each other. I think there's probably situations of that happening even within chiropractic if you're not aware of those things. So we have to be really tuned in to the changes that are happening with mom. Even if I've not had children, a lot of times young female chiropractors or like guys will even like come up and be like, well, if you like, how do you, connect with a mom, a postpartum mom or a pregnant mom if you've never been in that, or even like parenting? They'll ask us parenting questions and we're like, I mean, like I can give you some ideas from like a neurological standpoint, but like, no, I haven't been in that place, and we can use our clinical experience though and our nervous system kind of like background and lens to guide them. But it doesn't come from a place of like, oh, I know everything because I have 4 to 5 kids, you know what I mean? So, yeah.
Well, and let me tell you, I have 4 kids and I do not know everything. I am at a loss many times of many days. So, what you're saying though is really important even when we're talking marketing and messaging, because so often we want to provide urgency, but it comes across as scare marketing. Like you're scaring this mother into thinking her baby is going to be stunted for life if we don't do this. And what you're saying is, like, if she's already all heightened up, how is this really helping? Or also on the other side, the shame of whether the birth experience turned out exactly how she wanted to or not. There's so many beautiful women who have done, you could say everything right, and the birth experience still turns into, hopefully it turned out well, where they say, well, at least you have a healthy baby. But the mom is like, there's layers here of not okayness. And so not having the scare marketing, not having the shame messaging where we're like, it was birth trauma, you really messed it up. That's not going to be helpful for anybody.
I was on a podcast a couple weeks ago and we talked about our communication. Everything has to come from a place of love and integrity. And like, if I was that mom and I just had a baby and you're just incredibly protective and all the things, and it's building trust also, which hopefully you've done long before they come in with their baby, because then you don't have to like go over the top, try to like convince them, and you should never scare care anybody. If you feel like you need to, we've already got a big problem, but every message should just be with complete compassion and complete love and painting a picture of potential. And we have to remember that not everyone is going to choose that. That's the same in any area of, healthcare or wellness care or anything like that. People are going to choose not to do that. And unfortunately, sometimes they're going to wait until baby gets sick and then they're going to bring them in. And that is painful because we know sometimes that those things are going to happen, and we communicate the best that we can. And then they come back. And again, had they continued care, we can't prove it. They probably wouldn't have been in that situation. But then we can just love them back in and we can help that child heal again and regulate again and thrive again. So it's just compassion. It's compassion and love and learning to like put yourself in their shoes and really just speak the truth. So it's understanding what we do as chiropractors too. But you're absolutely right on the, we had a mom actually who came in pretty late in her pregnancy and wanted not a C-section this time. She had a really good birth plan. And this still is hard for me as a chiropractor, but she ended up, choosing to birth at the hospital. And everything kind of happened really, really well. Labor was initiating really beautifully. They ended up inducing her, bringing in Pitocin, which we know can cause a lot of other problems. And it did just that. And so does that mean that chiropractic didn't work for that mom? No, but that's kind of just the nature of how things are right now. And so that mom came in and I could tell like she was struggling to make eye contact with me because I think she felt shame for like not achieving her goals. And so I was just really connected to that and just noticed that. And so I know like I'm telling my team, she had a tough birth. She had a lot of good things that she noticed went better than the last one. And we need to highlight those for her. We need to help her see like she didn't fail. She absolutely didn't fail. And yes, this baby is healthy. But also we can still be truthful about the difference between a vaginal birth and a C-section. We can still be truthful and point out like, hey, baby is looking really, really good. You did a really good job, getting him in a nice restful state. I'm seeing some, he had a lot of cranial issues. And so I'm going to, lightly communicate that, hey, when we don't go through that vaginal canal, that we don't get that squeezing, that pressure, that innate adjustment. Now that said, I've still seen babies with cranial issues who had the perfect vaginal birth. right? And so I always say things like that, where it's like, you can give the factual, you can explain the dynamics of an epidural with a mom, but it should never be from a place of shame of like, you shouldn't do this, because for one family, Miralax might be the right choice, or an epidural might be their right, a more aligned choice. And for another, it's not. And so we have to be okay with people choosing something different than maybe what we would choose for them.
Yes, yes. There's a chiropractor in Florida, Dr. Paula Hedgelon, and she says this all the time when she speaks on stage at Dynamic Essentials. Pretty much every talk, she's like, love them. Love them when, they listen to you. Love them when they don't, when they move away. It's such a beautiful thing. It's something that I think is so true in our communication and in our messaging. And something that especially I think, like, I love that you're talking about like what you say at the table, but then also what we're sharing online, because if people have sensed a judgmental attitude on your marketing where maybe they haven't even met you in person, it's kind of hard to tell the tone of voice sometimes on an Instagram caption.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely.
We can't soften it up with our body language or things.
Yeah.
So being aware of that, and even just running it through the filter, like you said, putting ourselves in their shoes. I've never had a cesarean. I did not choose an epidural. So I would have to put myself in a friend or a sister's shoes and say, if she was reading this, would she feel like I was being a little judgy? What could I change? Take away any film of shame so that she just sees my heart.
Absolutely. And I think it's like anything. I mean, if you, like, when we started talking a lot more about like birth trauma and just how that has developed over the course of the years, when the medical system really got in there and started doing things with it, I think it became like a large focus of our communication for the right reason. But I do think that even just thinking about it, it's like, that's part of their story. That's part of their becoming, right? That's part of their human experience. And sometimes we encounter more challenge because we need to learn things about ourselves. And so that's trusting innate that, like, what did that mom learn via that experience? What did I learn via that experience? Because as soon as that mom came in, I did feel that sadness for her of like, oh, I know that wasn't her goal. But how can I love her through this? And how can I help her build herself back up through this so that she knows she didn't fail? And if she decides she wants to do it, aim for a VBAC on the next one, that is a goal. Obviously, like, tread lightly with that conversation too, because they just had a baby. So we don't need to be like, next one. But at the same time, like, that's in the back of my head of like, it doesn't mean we got to stop trying. That doesn't mean we have to, we didn't fail. Right? Just because we stumbled doesn't mean we failed. It's an opportunity to then teach somebody to get back up and to cheer themselves on and to grow. And that's our whole job, like you said, is to love and to serve these people and to serve them with love. So that's really, it's got to be the focus, is not just painting the picture, even within marketing, of like birth trauma bad. Birth trauma exists even for holistic home births in the backyard with your dogs watching. Like, it still exists there. Like, we still adjust our babies after we have the perfect little natural birth. So these parents need it more than ever, and we got to love them through it. And they don't have to see everything the way that we see everything too.
Yes, I love how you said the story of their becoming, because that was my fourth baby. And I thought, a fourth baby, like, I'm going to push like once, right? Like, this is going to be so quick and easy. And I've done all of the things. And I really had, now, I think it was Dr. Ian Stulman was talking about the emotional subluxation that we can have in birth. And I was like, that's the word. That is the word. That's what was going on. Because my fourth pregnancy, my fourth birth, was 25 hours long. It was twice as long as any other delivery. But it was the story of my becoming. And, yes, that baby and I needed to go through that and learn through that. I have a whole little bullet journal of what I wrote afterwards where I was like, this is a thing. So I love that you say that, the story of their becoming. And I love that you have gotten into this field of helping pregnant women and kids. And I know that you've gotten additional certifications in that. What led you to really pursue more education?
Yeah. Again, I talk about like my becoming a chiropractor, my like early chiro experiences. And I just was surrounded by people who wanted to be excellent. And I was surrounded by people who wanted to pursue mastery. And that has always been so attractive to me. I'm very affected by like the energy of the people around me. I think we all are to an extent, but I always knew that I was. I always loved being a part of a team, and I always loved being able to like grow with those people and to like be challenged by them. And so that I think naturally like stemmed from maybe like sports in the past, competing or things like that. But at the same time, like when I became a chiropractor, I realized it was just like, oh my gosh, like I have so much potential. I'm already doing amazing. I'm not anything less because I don't have all these skills yet, but I want to continue to grow. And I want to like follow that path that like I have for me, or that like the Lord has for me, to like keep seeking and pursuing. I love this phrase too, where it's like, God doesn't care about like which gifts we have. It's like how we use them. And so I knew, wow, I have this such an awesome potential and I could see it, but I wanted to like really fully use it. And so again, as I leaned in and studied things and encountered mentors and things like that, it just continued to develop, and I just saw myself blossom, and I received more energy through that. And I think that is kind of like a natural thing that happens when we're like walking in the right direction of like that alignment with who we are meant to become and grow into. And so I just pursued and asked mentors what to study and all those different things. And I learned with them. They had their hands over my hands, feeling babies' skulls and craniums. And so it just like naturally like happened that way. But I really did put in a lot of effort. I worked really hard in associateships, and then kind of stepped into my own practice in 2023. And since then have been continuing to drive. And it's honestly my greatest joy to keep studying, because I know that people need it.
I love that. It's good because it's inspiring to, it's hard to think sometimes that we might just be like, okay, well, now I could just sit back. Like, okay, I've graduated chiropractic school. Whew, done. But instead to have that thought of, like you said, excellence and mastery, to say, I want to pursue this excellence, and not as a destination, but as a journey.
Yes. And that's a good point right there too, because I've had to learn so much through my own coaching this year and like therapy and all those beautiful things that we do, that like excellence doesn't mean that every second of the day I'm like grinding and like, rubbing my hands, like bleeding and I'm sweating and all those things. But like some of it is like I'm taking an hour to go for a walk, to like process and create awareness, and to sit in silence, and to take a vacation, because on vacation, I just get so many drop-ins. I learn so much about myself. Sometimes it's even hard to step away. You learn something about yourself in that. And so every step of the journey is just a learning and a growing experience. It doesn't like growth doesn't just mean that I have to be like pushing and clawing and like holding on so tight, so even like there's seasons of growth and seasons of, I don't like plateau or like stagnancy, but there's seasons of, I described it to my mentor this morning, of as kids grow and develop, they hit a new milestone, or sometimes even right before that milestone, there's a ton of struggle. And then they master that milestone. And then there's a period of kind of like quiet after the milestone where it's integration. And so that's kind of a beautiful way to like experience growth too, is there is no stagnancy in growth, and there's no plateauing in growth. It's just continual growth, but it almost seems like more quiet before another like big learning thing.
Yes, thank you for sharing that, because that is so important, and it's something that I have struggled with as well, to think like, oh no, look at me, I'm just being stagnant. But lately one of my things has been that when I'm driving in the car, because in Kansas I frequently will drive 30 minutes to get to anywhere, to not optimize this time, to not turn on a podcast, to not turn on the audiobook. It's like, oh yeah, you really need to finish that audiobook on clockwork and automating your systems. Like, this would be such a great time to do that. And instead being like, not even music. I am going to be silent in the car for 30 minutes. And I like that you said integrate, that neurologically, perhaps my brain is using this time to classify, to file, to integrate.
Totally, just like we do in sleep too. Like if we're not getting quality sleep, we're not integrating that. If I don't go on like 2-3 walks a week where I'm just like, quiet, listening to nature, I notice my nervous system is just more heightened because I'm not processing all of these beautiful things that I've learned. So I do think that growth is learning to, I know there's so much discussion about like balance doesn't exist, but I think like the way that we understand balance, like there's a push and there's a pull, and it's kind of this continuum. And so just knowing that there's rest that's involved in growth, and that's so, so important. And I think we can consider it to be called integration, right?
Yes. Well, the last question that I have before we wrap up, you've alluded to your own story a couple of times. What is your story that brought you into chiropractic?
Yeah. Oh, it's a long story. Honestly, it's really beautiful. Like we talked about the process of becoming, and that really came from kind of my own reflections on my journey. Is like sometimes we look back and we're like, oh, that kind of sucked. So when I was young, when I was a child, and I learned these things as I was actually like a chiropractor, I was really sick. I was constantly like just really poor immune function. I just was very disconnected from like myself. There was a lot of just emotional disconnection in my family, and just kind of grew into more and more challenges, like as is common, that perfect storm of subluxation development. And I was adjusted a few times as a kid, but not very often. It was upper cervical care, which is so, so beautiful and so good. Like I'm grateful for that, but I never really learned anything about chiropractic from it. So that's kind of my big critique of I didn't get a lot of info from it. And as we were growing up, I started developing more than just immune challenges. Because of those immune challenges, a lot of antibiotics, a lot of different things like that, a lot of medications. And so then high school starts, or even probably before high school, constipation, more gut issues, IBS, hormonal issues. I started experiencing high anxiety all the time. I didn't know that I experienced that, but I did. And then depression kind of hit in college. I started having more and more severe immune reactions, even just like skin rashes. I started having allergies to a wide variety of foods. Literally alcohol being one of them. I started like literally having a rash and hives in response to alcohol. Not many people can say that they have an allergy to that. Maybe it's a good thing. I don't know. But developed that, continued to experience a lot of just mental brain fog, exhaustion. I learned that, just even fatigue. I had constant fatigue. I also developed insomnia. Like the list goes on and on and on, really. I started having severe pain, and I literally would be in the ER or in urgent care multiple times a month for that. And then I did start taking some medications for that. I just did not know about alternative things. I was not very connected with myself at that time. And that's when I started it came from inside of me. I just started like looking on Dr. Josh Axe's website. I found his blog and I just started reading, and I found that nutritional kind of thing really interesting. And so I read, and I honestly think I read every single blog on his website, which is a lot of blogs. But I loved just the structure of it, the reading, the information, the facts, the teaching, like how to help heal yourself. And I just was really attracted to that. And so I looked up, like, okay, where did he go to school? Like, I want to do what he does. And I found out that he was a chiropractor, and his wife is a chiropractor as well. So I thought, okay, I'm headed this direction of occupational therapy, but maybe I'll like shadow a few chiropractors as well. So I shadowed about 3 to 4 chiropractors in Minnesota, and they all told me, and none of them had gone to Life University. They all told me to go check out Life University. So I decided to just book a flight the next weekend and went out to Life University. And that's where I met Dr. Jill LaMarche. Are you familiar?
No. Oh, yes, I do.
Yep. You probably recognize him. But I heard him tell his story at this Life Leadership weekend, and it just inspired me. And it just was like, this is what I'm looking for. Like this spark, this understanding of life, this philosophy, this understanding of our health and our innate healing potential. It just captivated me. And so I kind of knew in that moment, like, I definitely want to come here. Like, I want to become a chiropractor. I want to do this stuff. And so I went back home and, signed up and decided to go. My parents thought I was crazy, to be honest. And they were kind of like, I think you're making a mistake. You should go be a PT or an OT. It's steady work. And so I ended up going, and really, truly, like, I experienced so much healing in chiropractic school, and not even from being adjusted. Like I always say that it was just the environment of people that, again, wanted to grow and wanted to learn. It was the belief that our bodies can heal. It was understanding like, oh my gosh, my body was sick because of subluxation, not because I didn't have all these supplements in my story, because I had pursued all of those different routes, all of the fancy doctors, and nothing ever like settled or helped me. And I have to reframe that sometimes of like, it was all part of my story, right? It was all part of my becoming and understanding. And then through chiropractic school, I met Dr. Tony, and I heard about the pediatric kind of realm of things. And that's where I just was like, I like actually found him really interesting, and we had a connection. And so I reached out to him, and that's actually where I received a lot of my like neurological chiropractic healing, was actually through Dr. Tony. So I was hired there, worked there, and worked with the Pediatric Experience for a while back in Illinois. So
Awesome. I love hearing all of that because, yes, there are so many stories that it's because we had this experience that we have this knowledge and knowing. And it's not just something we've read about, we've lived it. And that makes such a powerful story.
Yeah, absolutely. And I truly, like, I know that the depth of that and the pain that I've been through really is like given me such an edge in chiropractic and just being able to like share all of those experiences. So again, it's like I've had multiple mentors, like as I told that story, be like, no, it's not that those things didn't do anything for you. They actually gave you a lot of tools and a lot of understanding. And just reframing that and then being able to bring that conviction and that just like passion for what I do, because I experienced my nervous system go through a 72 visit care plan and literally just experienced the like slow monotonous days where you're like, is anything changing? And all of a sudden you're like, whoa, like chiropractic freaking works. And now I get to experience the vitality of it getting adjusted when my body feels strong and it feels healthy. And I continue to get adjusted regularly because I know what clear feels like. And so again, it's just, being able to really, really experience that. And I don't think you need that zest to like be a good chiropractor, but sometimes it's hearing those stories from each other to know that like you can instill that confidence, right? You can steal that conviction and then build your own as you go.
Perfect. I love it. Well, thank you for sharing all of this. I'm going to put links to where people can follow you on Instagram and also learn more about the Pediatric Experience and all of that since we mentioned it. But thank you so much for sharing and for what you do. I think that as a mom, pediatric chiropractors are probably my favorite because I see what you're doing for my children's generation, for their friends, and for the future of the world in the hands of these babies right now.
Yeah, love it. Awesome. I'm grateful to be doing the work. So
thanks for being here.